70% of women-led businesses around Africa have either limited access or no access at all to finance. And that leaves us with a funding gap of around $285 billion. That's the size of opportunity that if we build the right fintech startups or the right value propositions offered to women by banks, that's the size of the opportunity. 285 billion finance funding gap, according to a Goldman Sachs research report that they published 2 years ago. What do we have here? We have a huge opportunity. We have a great need on the ground, and we have a problem reaching women and offering them the right services. Why? Because banks and incumbents mainly, so whether they are banks, whether they are insurance companies, leasing companies, or the like, have never put women as a target market segment, and accordingly, they have never customized solutions that suits the majority of women there is. And generally, it's not just women. I mean, incumbents mainly focus on the high income segment of the societies and large corporates, and they do not focus on SMEs. But of course, women get affected a lot more adversely than men due to the fact that there are other issues and other problems that leads to women being treated unequally. If we look at those, and our previous speakers have actually covered many of them, why do women have issues getting access to finance and funds? The education is one of them. Financial literacy is another one of them. The fact that women do not always accumulate wealth, so they do not have the right collateral to approach banks for to get loans or access to funds to finance their businesses and grow. And accordingly, you'd find that the majority of women have always resorted to the informal sector to actually get access to some funds to drive their businesses growth and the like. And of course, they get exploited when they do so, paying a lot more higher interest than they would have generally paid, resorting to dealing with a bank or a formal financial institution. So what can be the solution to that problem? So women across Africa, they are in charge of families. They have to work hard to provide for their children. They are not encouraged by the social norms to be entrepreneurs or to start their own businesses and take responsibility for it. And if they do, they never get that the support they need from the financial industry. What can be the answer? The answer is mainly lies within the introduction and growing the fintech startup ecosystem around the continent. What can fintech startups do? They are a lot more agile. They act really fast on the ground. They are inclusive by nature. Fintechs mainly work on that to fill the gap that banks and other financial institutions created doing business over the past years. So they mainly focus on supporting SMEs, small and medium businesses. They work on serving the financially excluded segment of the community. And they actually are doing a great job serving those people. But again, if you look at the number of female-led fintech startups, you would find it not more than 18%. So only 1 out of 5 fintech startups in Africa are mainly led by a female entrepreneur. Why is that number a problem? Simply because when we exclude women from leadership and decision-making processes, we create a greater opportunity that products and services are not going to be designed to be inclusive of women. So if you do not have a woman on in a boardroom, on the board, or a woman who is in charge of a business, the likelihood that the decision makers are going to customize solutions to fit women is really low. And that's one thing that I always say to everybody. When businesses do not include women in C-level positions or as board members, they are not just jeopardizing the fact that they would look as like discriminative against women or non-inclusive for women. They are wasting a market opportunity to have women as customers as well. Because when you do not have that women perspective involved in the decision-making process, involved in the product design, involved in the market testing and go-to-market strategy, you're excluding more than half of the world. I mean, in Africa, women are actually higher in number than men. So when you do not include women and women perspective, you are wasting on a huge, huge market. So again, fintech startups are inclusive by nature. We need to encourage fintechs, ladies to become entrepreneurs and build their own fintechs. So they would get the chance to actually customize financial solutions that serves women across the continent. What are the issues that the fintech ecosystem in general is facing around Africa? There are a few challenges. One of them is pertaining mainly to the regulatory environment and framework that is there. Most of the African countries, the central banks have actually started taking steps towards promoting for financial technology innovation. They have built sandboxes. An example to that is the central bank in Egypt, in Nigeria, in Ghana. I believe they did an innovation setup to support the growth of fintech startups serving the unbanked, underbanked, and the micro and small businesses as well. Laws themselves, they need to be pro-technology, they need to be pro-innovation in order to support fintechs to tackle that huge market gap. The modern technologies and hence engineers and coders who, like in the majority, unfortunately, are males and not females. And this is one issue that we are going to tackle later on. Those technologies that enable fintech startups around Africa range in between the majority, the ones with the most impact are blockchain or distributed ledger technology that can facilitate certain applications like digital identity. And digital identity is key when offering financial services digitally or remotely. And this is where the future of the industry is hitting. We've seen digital payments. Now we look to increase the number of digital lending solutions and applications. And you cannot do that without having the right digital identity, because you cannot identify the individual or the business you are lending to. Distributed ledger can also be used in multiple applications in trade facilitation. And now that we have the trade treaty in place, up and running amongst the African countries, we are looking to encourage startups to utilize technologies like distributed ledger to build trade facilitation platforms that can offer the service at much lower cost than if the trade finance services are mainly processed mainly manually amongst the banks that serve the exporters and importers. That's another use case for blockchain technology. We look at technologies like big data related technology. Data, again, is the new oil, as they say. And we have a wealth of data in here in Africa, but we have to create the right analytics. We have to create the right reporting that tackles our issues and presents opportunities in a clearer way. We have an issue of absence of general information around the continent. So if we wish to attract more investors into the continent and present it as an attractive innovation hub, we need to work a lot more on our business intelligence, as we say, and the reports that can highlight our the size of opportunity that is in Africa. Another obstacle that is actually there and that should be tackled if we want to grow the fintech ecosystem that is inclusive of women, and we want to encourage women to take an active role in becoming fintech entrepreneurs, and of course building businesses that can serve other women, is access to finance, access to funding. The majority of the money that was directed towards startups, to fund startups around Africa, went mainly to male-driven and male-led fintech businesses. Only 18% of that capital went, or that investment amount went to businesses that are led by women. How can we overcome that? There is that social norm or understanding or even bias amongst investors that they would rather put their money in a company that is led by a man than a woman. And that's, of course, because the majority of the investors are males. They are men. So they feel more comfortable dealing with other men and investing in their businesses than to actually invest in a woman's business. Although that's according to statistics, women tend to generate 3 times more profits than the businesses that are led by men. But again, investors are really discouraged to provide investment to women-led businesses at early stages. After women prove successful, they can later on provide access, offer investment when the business has already proven to be successful. So women tend to really struggle at early stages when they are still building their startups. And that is an issue. How can we solve that? We need to encourage more women to become investors, like become part of angel investment networks. If you are an accomplished lady, if you have the capacity to invest in other businesses, join an angel investor network. The ticket size of the investment is not big, but again, accumulating investments across the network, you can actually provide enough capital to support women-led businesses at such early stages until they are perceived to be ready to receive investment from other formal investors like venture capital funds or even institutional investors within the industry. And that's the second challenge, which is access to capital. The third challenge that is also of very importance to tackle and deal with is the level of difficulty to formalize agreements with an incumbent financial institution, whether that incumbent is a bank or an insurance company or the like. Why do we ladies need to formalize those agreements on partnerships? Because again, fintech startups have a higher probability of continuity and success if you are backed by an established financial institution that can tackle the arising issues of safety and security amongst the population. If a bank has partnered with a fintech startup, or if an insurance company has partnered with an insurtech startup, the likelihood of its continuity and the comfort that creates at end customers' side makes it a lot easier to acquire customers and grow and expand. Why are those difficult? Why are those partnerships difficult? Mainly because we ladies are not exactly the best at networking. Men manage to network and sell themselves in a much better and more effective manner. Why is that the case? It's simply because this is not how we were brought up. We would rather focus on getting the job done, and we were not brought up to be more visible, but rather more effective at what we do. And this is one thing that we need to tackle. To solve this problem, we need to have platforms that actually promote women leaders, platforms that promote women entrepreneurs. We need to have organizations that do that networking on our behalf to make the introductions. It's very similar to what SWE is doing in here. We just need a larger number of those platforms to grow, groom, and promote many ladies to leadership positions, or to actually enable them to create that impact and inspire other ladies to actually follow their footsteps and become leaders in their industry, put in the work it takes and it is needed to build their own businesses and startups and the like. The fourth issue that we face in here that may hinder the growth of that fintech ecosystem that is inclusive of women, of course, is the education element. I'm just quoting engineer Vera when she said that we do not have enough engineers. And actually, engineer Carleen has said the exact same thing. We need to work on the competence of the workforce. What I would like to add in here is that I studied finance, but I'm also a coder. So I'm a techie. I never graduated from engineering school. I mean, I started studying engineering and then I decided to shift to finance. But again, I'm a techie, I'm a coder. I have that understanding of technology. I can build and structure, work on the architecture of platforms, build tech-enabled business models, while I never graduated as an engineer. The future is for technology, and now technology is an enabler of every industry that there is. And you know, it takes a lot. It takes around like what, an average of 5 years to graduate an engineer. You can become a professional coder in a language that is of generic use, like Java, for example, in less than a year. So what we need to do is to actually focus on reskilling our task force, to encourage ladies to become coders. And actually, we have just started an initiative with one of our community partners, R3, the technology company that mainly has developed Corda and that promotes for the deployment of a distributed ledger technology as a profound and a strong base for fintech solutions and other solutions across the industries. The initiative that we are that we've launched and that we are about to graduate our very first cohort of coding ladies from is called Ladies Learn to Code, LLC in short. And what we did was we built a partnership with a local university, and it's a government-owned university in Egypt called Ain Shams University. And we onboarded 20 lady engineers, whether they have graduated or they're still about to graduate next year. And we built a program to teach them how to actually code on Corda, how to code for distributed ledger technology. It's not going to take us 5 years. We are going to graduate the cohort sometime in August. It's going to be the very first cohort we graduate, and we are going to continue to partner with our technology, other technology providers, of course, plus the Corda, to graduate more ladies. So you do not have to take 5 years to graduate engineers who can actually make sure that women become part of the future of all industries, not just the financial industry. So education is very important, but let us keep education as relevant to the needs of the market as possible, and focus on that technology education, so we can have ladies who are equipped to be part of the task force of the future, who are part of the decision making in all companies across industries, and accordingly give ladies a more chance to be heard, and give them create that opportunity where solutions can be actually built and customized for ladies in there. Thank you very much for the time. This is all I had today, and of course now you are free to ask all the questions that you wish. I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Noha, for this presentation. It's an awesome presentation. I've learned so much from this. The 4 points you raised, access to capital, level of difficulty to formalize agreement of partnership with financial organizations, and education, especially the risk, and to keep education relevant to the need of the market as much as possible. These are eye-openers, and thank you so much for this. So you've actually answered some of our questions. We're going to take the second speaker before we go on to the panel of questions and answer. So we plead with you to please still hang in there. The next speaker is Oremeyi, and she's only going to speak for a few minutes before we can take on the questions and answers. So thank you so much, Noha. If you have a question for Noha, anyone, please, you can just send it to the chat. We already have some ready-made questions, but if you do have a question for her, you just send it in the chat. So we take all the questions together, as we are running behind schedule and we need to work as quickly as possible. So thank you once again, Noha. We will come back with the questions shortly, okay? And so now we have Oremeyi. Oremeyi is she's the Chief Core Operation Officer in Interswitch. She's been there for 18 years. She's one of the pioneer staff of Interswitch. So just like Noha, I'll just let her introduce herself, and then she can take on her topic for today. Thank you. Okay. So Oremeyi, you can start. Thank you.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I just want to confirm that you can hear me. Catherine, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Nice. Before I go on to introduce myself, I want to thank Noha for the presentation. A lot of things she said. I like what you said about relevant education, about the fact that people may not have a techie background, but that doesn't stop them from playing in the fintech and in the STEM space. That's very close to some of the points I'm going to raise as well. I am excited to have met Noha here because I see a lot of similarities in our thinking, and I just think, I mean, this is a fantastic, and you mentioned networking. It's something women don't do very well. I agree. And so, I mean, we should take this forward. We should definitely deepen this network and see what we can build. You know, I'm in Nigeria, you're in Egypt, and I mean, we are all over Africa on this call. So I just think that these are the platforms for networking and collaboration that we should deepen and make more enriching, deliberately make more enriching. You know, so just to say thank you again to Noha for going first. I'm going now. I'll introduce myself. I'm Oremeyi. I consider myself to be a passionate African. I am genuinely passionate, and I'm excited. I was born in Africa and from another continent. I am excited. I know God doesn't make mistakes, so I am not an African by mistake. I believe that Africans are the ones to solve their own problems. I believe that no one is going to solve our problems for us because they are ours to do. I'm an engineer by training. I studied electrical engineering in Nigeria, but I have an MBA from the University of Cambridge. I did an MBA to basically broaden my understanding of business because I was very restricted. I mean, as an engineer, all I knew was the engineering part of it. I wanted to get more into business. So I stepped out to do my MBA. After my MBA, I came back to Nigeria, back to Interswitch. For those that may not or may know, Interswitch is a payment processing technology integration leader. It started in Nigeria, but today we're in Nigeria, we're in Gambia, we're in Uganda, we are in Ghana, we are in Kenya as well. To my, I know there's some people from Kenya on the call. I'll say Jambo to you. So that's Interswitch, payment processing, and I was responsible. I've worked across several functions, from engineering when I started to operations. I've headed training. I have been responsible for processing of international card brands like MasterCard and Visa. And I was the first country manager for Verve, which is our own domestic card brand. And we were, we challenged ourselves to to raise a domestic card to the same level of competence and capability as the international card brands. And so we took Verve outside Nigeria, and today Verve is accepted across over 20 countries in Africa and over 180 countries globally through a partnership we have with Discover Network. And we're very excited about Verve because it is the only domestic card brand in Africa that charges in domestic currency, and that has proven to help small banks that may not be able to afford high fees to be able to issue cards to their customers. And for us, that is driving financial inclusion. That is one of the ways that we are inspiring Africa to greatness. Right now, I was responsible for operations for the last 4 years, but just recently, I'm now focused on customer experience and building valuable customer relationships. So that's what I do at work. But other than work, I'm married. I have 3 boys, very excited. I'm very passionate about my God connection. I build my God connection every day. And that's who I am. So back to the point of this call, I'm going to be speaking on women and just the context of fintech and women. Noha has done a lot of the speaking on my behalf. So again, I thank her. I'll just speak for a very few minutes. Can you just please go to my slides? Yeah. Thank you. We'll just wait to skip to the slides. Okay, yeah, 16, we'll start here. Thank you. So next slide, please. So we'll be looking at the context of the fintech industry in Africa, a very brief context, and then we'll bring women into that context, and then we'll look at what we can do to play in this space. So next. So let's look at, I mean, fintech in Africa is the latest. Fintech in Africa, can you just, no, it's okay. You can put it up. I will speak. Okay. I saw the second. Yes, fantastic. Fintech in Africa is the latest bride. Well, I'm on slide 4. Yes, fintech in Africa. When I say that, let's just talk about it. No, please, back to this previous slide. Great. So what does Africa have? We've all said it today. Africa has the fastest growing youthful population. Africa has the fastest growing penetration of smartphone and internet. Fastest growing, meaning growth rate. Of course, more developed continents and countries have higher numbers, but we have the fastest growing rate. And what that means for investors is undiscovered markets and potential for unearned revenue. Africa's fintech industry is in no way stagnated. It is still growing. It's even in its infancy, and it's still growing. I mean, I'm opportune to have been at the beginning of Interswitch when we started, and when we had 0 transactions every month, as in literally 0 electronic payment transactions, 0 merchants online, 0 point of sale terminals. Today, we are doing over 700 million transactions every month from 0. And we have not stopped growing. And that is just a segment of the market. That's just to give you an idea of the growth we're talking about here. And if we look at investments, in the last 2 years, a total of $1.4 billion has been invested by foreign investors into African fintechs, 1.4 billion. And to put that again into context, last year when there was a COVID, and when there was a declared pandemic, and there were a lot of holdbacks on investment, the fintech space was one space that still attracted a high percentage, up to $600 million was still invested in the fintech space in Africa. So that's just to tell you an idea. Maybe you want to mute Martin. I think Martin's line is, Catherine, can you just help mute Martin, please? There's some noise from that side. Thank you.
Okay, so, I'll do that.
So that's just an idea of the growth that's coming in. So the fintech space is the latest bride for investors, most definitely. And let's look a bit at the space we're talking of. Next slide. Now, when you look at the fintech space, across all, next slide, please, Catherine. Across all the players, and what's interesting about fintech is that we've seen it grow. It's grown from payments. Catherine, the previous slide, thank you. It's grown from payments to lending. Wow. Just stay here, thank you. It's grown from payments to lending, remittance, insurance, blockchain. I mean, I was excited when Noha was talking of training people into in blockchain technology, right? Distributed ledger technology. And then you have specialized industries like agriculture, education, and all these have come on board the fintech train. And you can see a list of major players across a lot of African countries, from Algeria to Uganda, Mozambique, Lesotho, Kenya, South Africa. I mean, you can list it. Now, what this tells you is that the market is highly fragmented. The market is open to a lot of investment. The market is open to a lot of players. And what does that mean in the context of you and I as Africans and as women? Now, we'll talk of the women part, but I just wanted to divorce the issue of fintech from women first before, and just to land the fact that the fintech space is growing. The players are emerging on a daily basis. Investors are aware of the opportunities, and the opportunities are in no way slowing down. Now, let's try to bring that into the context of you and I as females. Next slide, please, Catherine. Yeah. No, this, you can go on. This is just the divider. So the main point is that the fintech industry in Africa is here to stay. And furthermore, it is being fortified by the emergence of new technology, like I said before, Internet of Things, big data, and the empowered consumer. The African consumer will not be left behind. We talked about the challenges in education and the gap, the infrastructural deficit. We have a huge infrastructure deficit in Africa. We know it's not a new thing. But the African has refused to stay in that space. And that's why we are becoming more and more innovative. You find out that even though we may not have the standard infrastructure for education, you find out informal groups are training people like Noha mentioned, for example. And you see that not just in fintech, but across. And that just speaks to the innovative mindset of an African that refuses to be left behind. So the emergence of that, and when you juxtapose that with the fact that we are young people in Africa, I mean, I'm 42, but I consider myself very young, and there are younger people than myself. So we are young, and the growth of the youth in Africa is enormous. So I tell you, Africa has huge potential, and the potential has been, we've zoomed into the areas that are growing, and the fintech space is one of those major areas. Next slide, please. Yes, so let's look at some numbers here. Now, the first one is, I'll start from the biggest number, 70. It's a good number, 70%. Now, women drive 70% of consumer spend in the domestic front. Basic. Women determine what is bought and not bought in their home. I know for sure that's what happens in my home, right? So women are drivers, key consumers. Number two is the number 50. Women make up to 50% of the population globally and in Africa. So women are a critical mass that you must deal with in every space if you want to be relevant. And then finally, the number 3, which is a bit depressing. It's not as funky as 70 and 50. Now, what is 3? By research, only 3% of women seek or deliberately pursue a career in technology. Again, there are reasons for this: stereotyping, educational deficit, sociocultural issues where some women don't even have the chance to go to school, where women are pressurized to go get married early, or pressurized to do a quick course, or even discouraged from doing STEM courses, education, science courses, because you're told it's difficult and you are a woman and you're going to get married, or you don't need to do that. And that is a major issue. However, I tell you that it's not all bleak. There is light on the horizon, and people are challenging the status quo. So let's go on. Next slide. So the main point is that the involvement of women in matters that relate to fintech and technology is beyond a mere emotional call for balance. I'm not about that. In fact, I have no time for just saying, oh, let women get involved. Why should they? We should, because we are a major part of the population and we are the major consumers and we bring value, and that is very important. The professor from Kenya, I can't remember, that spoke in the general, she said, you don't want to be handed a favor, you want to earn it. So women in fintech, we have value, and you must understand that you bring value to the table. If you are only coming at it from involve women for gender balance, it's an emotional call. It is unsustainable and it has no business value whatsoever. However, it's beyond that. There is a need for an actual holistic ecosystem, an ecosystem that is balanced in such a critical issue such as technology. Hence, women cannot be left out of it. That is the reason why we must be at the table, why we must play the game, why we must contribute our own quota in the fintech space. So moving on, next slide. Yeah, so what next? And I'm wrapping up with this. Now, there are emerging trends that give credence to the opportunities for women. So there are issues, but there are opportunities. And, you know, I am a firm believer. I mean, I'm a person of faith. I'm a person of hope. I do not sit and discourage myself. Africa is a dark continent, as people call it. But you know what? Light shines the brightest in dark. So there is huge opportunity here. So first of all, more and more than techies more than techie roles are emerging in the value chain. And I think Noha spoke about that as well. I've just been referring to Noha, totally amazing. So Noha spoke about that as well. Now, what are we saying? You may not have studied engineering like myself or Catherine. You may not have studied, you know, coding or science or design or whatever. But you may be an accountant, you may be a lawyer, You may be, just someone that knows how to do a hair salon. But that doesn't stop you from playing in the fintech space. Fintech space now needs product managers, program managers, product designers, right? People that can design solutions. You don't need to write code to design a solution. Even lawyers, you have lawyers that specialize in fintech. That is opportunity for play. And I'm just saying that to say that the walls have come down. The barriers have come down. In the fintech space, they are huge. I used to train. I still train. I mean, although I'm an engineer by training, but by background, you don't need to have an engineering background or to train in the fintech space, right? So just saying that there is huge opportunity across the value chain, and there's huge opportunity for anyone that may not have a STEM background to still play in the fintech space, more because fintech is going down. And as I said, number 2 now, it's emerging across the spectrum of life. The spectrum of life is everything we do. We are into women, the life, family, every friend. You're into insurance, you go dining, you go on holiday, you go shopping, you're into education, you are reading a book, you want to do an online course. That is the spectrum of life. And at each of these spectrums, fintech has found a way to maneuver, penetrate into those spaces. So what that means is that everybody is a fintech customer. So everybody can contribute to the fintech development, even if you don't have the core technical background. The fact that it has emerged across the spectrum of life speaks to the opportunities that are emerging. And finally, investors are becoming more conscious of diversity. Again, Noha mentioned this. Yes, it's not as easy for women than men to get financing. However, the walls are coming down. I know, for example, a major company that got in over $100 million. And one of the investors said, you must have a good balance on your board. You must have a minimum of 55 to 45% men to women on your board. And I mean, they did it. So those are investors that know, and a lot of investors understand the impact women have, understand the need, like I mentioned before, of the balance that you must create, not from an emotional perspective, but because of a sustainable business value. And so the walls are coming down. And then finally, next slide, which I think is my last slide. Finally, the matter is, we that have gone ahead, we that know, we must mentor younger women. We must mentor younger women. That's one of the reasons I'm speaking here today. It was a busy day. I could have said, oh, I'm busy, right? But we must contribute. We must create avenues, sustainable avenues for mentorship within your social space, so that women can see you've done it and they can do it. Women in schools, girls in schools, in secondary schools, in primary schools. I was excited when the professor spoke about how they go to schools to talk to girls about joining the aviation sector. If you can build the picture in their mind and bring down the walls of unbelief that have been, and fear that has been built from a young age, we will have more women on the field. So I'll end by saying, now it's our turn, women. Now it's our turn. Let's play. Let's bring our value to the table. Let's be available. Let's contribute. I studied engineering. I never knew about fintech. When ATMs were being launched in Nigeria, it was scary. We had never seen it before. But I was on the first team that launched the first ATM in Nigeria. I didn't know much. It took a lot of reading, a lot of learning. But if you draw back, you can't play this game. You must bring yourself forward. That's why mentorship is important. That's what I'll say. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Oremeyi, for this wonderful presentation. We've actually been inspired by everything you've said. It's such a wonderful speech by you, and I'm sure everyone here has actually had a lot to learn from this presentation. Thank you so much. So now, because we've taken so much time, we can't actually take people's time for too long. So we're going to go right on to the questions. I have two panelists here. I'll just introduce them quickly. I've got Adjia Uzodinma, who is the head of IT and operations in Renmoney. She is she's actually heading a team of all guys. She's like the only female in her team, and so she's one of our panelists. We also have the second panelist, who is Shakila Kerre. I hope I'm pronouncing the name okay. If I'm not, please forgive me. She's also going to be speaking to us. She works in organizations that carry out policy on fintech. She's the vice chairperson of the African Women Fintech and Payments Kenya chapter. She's an FSD Africa Manager, Credit Innovation. So I will just project their pictures on the screen, and just like the other speakers have done, they will introduce themselves. I'll start with Shakila. So Shakila, if you're here, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you, Catherine. So yeah, I don't want to add much to what you said in the interest of time, but yes, my name is Shakila Kerre, and I'm passionate about the fintech sector. I'm passionate about financial innovations and about serving. You know, I think Noha has talked a lot about that and the back and the SAP. So that's primarily my area of work, my area of focus in my day-to-day jobs. You know, finding solutions through the use of technology to, you know, to enable women, the youth, SMEs, just basically marginalized population to access financial services. So I think I'll leave it at that. And then key to note, just I don't have a STEM background, which is, I think it's a testimony to the fact what Oremeyi said, that you don't need to be an engineer to work in the fintech space. So I have, I did my undergraduate in finance. I'm a CPA, a certified public accountant, but I mastered in economics. So my day-to-day job currently is on development economics, but in the fintech space on financial inclusion and financial innovations. And I'm glad to be here.
Okay, thank you so much, Shakira. I'm going to be asking a few questions to all of you, four of you, but I'll just let Adjia introduce herself. So Adjia, if you can hear me, sorry you've been waiting for so long today, like you were the first person to join. So if Adjia is here, can you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
Thank you, Omada. Hi, everybody. My name is Adjia Uzodinma. I work with Renmoney as the head of information technology and operations. Contrary to what Omada has said, we now have some females on the technology team, taking up roles like product management, business analysis, quality assurance, testers. So that has been a very conscious effort on our end to build the technology team to have more females. So yeah, I'm not the only lady anymore. I do have a STEM background. I studied computer science in school. I was very passionate about coding, but yeah, I pretty much deviated from that. And now I'm in the management aspect of information technology. I also have an MBA. Of course, you need that to be able to understand how business works and all of that. So I won't take too much time. Thank you, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Adjia, Shakila, Oremeyi, and Noha. So we actually had there are some questions we have here that you have actually answered, like your team, you're the team of the FinTech panel. The questions, most of the questions have actually been answered by your presentation, but I am just going to go through the questions and then we can have maybe one person at a time speak to each of the topics. I'll just post this on the chats, and then we can take them one after the other. So the first question is, do you consider the fintech industry to be lucrative for career growth and prospects in Africa? I think Oremeyi and Noha spoke a lot about this. I would say that has already been answered. So maybe we'll move on to the next one. However, if you're going to speak, you can actually maybe touch more a bit about it, but we want to just focus on some questions that haven't been answered in the talk yet. So the second one said, how has COVID-19 affected the different aspects of fintech in Africa? Okay, so that's number 2 question. I would let Adjia have it. Then number 3, but I'll just read out the questions first so we can save time. Number 3 is, what is your advice to young professionals who want to excel in the IT profession? I would let Shakila handle that. Then, how has fintech evolved over the years in Africa? How have the female IT professionals been impacted? I think Oremeyi actually broke this down into bits, like she had spoken at length about this, so we can leave this aside for now. Then number 5 says, how must organizations, public policies, and educational institutions change or grow to further boost the growth of IT in Africa? I think Shakila works in an organization where they make policies. I don't know if you will be able to take on this question. So Shakila, for number 5 question, how favorable are government policies? I think I would want Noha to take that question. Then what will you advise college students aspiring to take on IT, especially fintech profession in the future, to do in order to achieve that goal? I think Oremeyi can take this question because she has worked in a place where they grew fintech from scratch, from when they had just finished school, like finishing the youth service. They started a fintech company from scratch. So number 7 question will go to Oremeyi. So in no particular order, I think the number 2 question for Adjia, she can actually start speaking about it. And when she's done, so we're going to give each question 3 minutes. So if you can maybe speak up as much as possible. And please, audience, if you have any other question, you can share the question on the chat group so we can attend to it once these major questions have been answered. So Adjia, you have the floor. I'll just project the questions just in case anyone has a problem with that. Sorry.
I got thrown out of the meeting.
Okay, sorry. Welcome back. So are you okay now?
Yes, I'm back now. Apologies. What question?
Okay, so your question, the question you should answer is number 2. How has COVID-19 affected the different aspects of fintech in Africa?
Okay, I think the COVID-19 virus pretty much accelerated change in how people interact with financial services. First of all, the agency network was adversely affected by lockdown because, of course, you couldn't leave your house to go interact with an agent. But what took a turn was the demand for secure and more digital financial products. Yeah, so we saw more online payments. The fintechs took advantage of the situation, facilitating easy online transactions, online products, while increasing their profitability in the process. Yes, we've had issues with security, of course, with staff working from home. You need to be able to secure them at home and also servers and all of that. But I think the change pretty much is the mindset shifted from we could do less physical and more personal transactions and bring it more online. So there was a pickup on that front. That's what I think.
Okay, thank you very much, Adjia, for that answer. I don't know if anyone else has a question. If you have a question, please drop it on the chat room, chat box, so we can save the time because we've actually gone past our planned time. Okay, so the second question, which I think is for Shakila. Is that for Shakila?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to go, please? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the question is, what is your advice to young professionals who want to excel in the IT profession? So I'll make it broader, not necessarily IT, fintech, and basically anything you want to do. And I think Oremeyi spoke to this, that, you know, there are no barriers, there's no ceiling. You can, and Noha as well spoke to it through her personal experience, that she didn't have an engineering background, but she's a coder. So there's the agility. You have to be agile because the world is constantly changing. So you have to be, you know, quite up to speed in what's happening. You have to be current, and then you adapt your skills to whatever it is that you're doing. And it doesn't matter what profession or what undergraduate degree or whatever course it is that you study in university. I think critical is to know that university just gives you a foundation, and you can use whatever skill that you learn, you know, your learning skill, your knowledge acquisition skill, to apply it to any industry that you want. I'll use my own personal example. So in our work now, as you know, climate change is a big issue around the world now, and with COVID as well. So health became critical. I work in the financial background, but because these are pertinent issues that are affecting our day-to-day world, we have had to apply ourselves technically, you know, to learn more about climate change issues, to learn more about greenhouse gas emissions, carbon credit markets, voluntary carbon credit markets, and in the health field as well, not just to be in touch with the technical issues, and then how those intersect with the financial world. So in our world, increasingly, we don't work in isolation. There's a lot of intersectionality. And I think Oremeyi spoke about the value chain approach. So as fintechs work in different value chains, it could be in trade. I think Noha spoke about trade. So how do you work with players in the trade industry? How do you work with players in the health industry? You need to be current, you need to be up to date, you need to be agile, and you need to be adaptable and willing to learn. You know, we're always constantly learning and unlearning new skills. You never stop learning.
Thank you so much, Shakila. That was awesome. And the next question is actually for you as well. We're jumping question 4 because Oremeyi actually touched that a lot. So we don't think we think it would be repetitive to answer that again. So we're jumping over to number 5, which is how must organizations, public policies, and educational institutions change or grow to further boost the growth of IT in Africa? If you can go on with that answer.
So I think critical to note is the area of partnership and speaking to each other. And we've noticed that, at least I'll speak to the fintech sector. So regulators, and these are the central bank, the financial sector regulators are really quite stringent, especially with the incumbents, because of the risk there is quite high. So when fintechs came into the field, then they really quite didn't know them, but they were bringing about innovation. So instead of stifling innovation, there's a lot of collaboration and partnership that was needed. And we've seen central banks also being agile and being innovative and moving away from that traditional way of regulating industry players, forming regulatory sandboxes to just first understand the industry without necessarily stifling innovation. So everyone is growing. So the idea about partnerships is very key. And I think Oremeyi also mentioned that fintechs don't work in isolation. You know, you need to partner with the bank, you need to partner with an insurance company, you know, you need to partner, like in Kenya, we have Trigger Foods, you need to partner with a key player within a certain value chain. So we need to learn how to speak to each other, because within the whole ecosystem, there's a value that every player brings. So it can't be working in silos. People have to work together. And the beauty about it, I think the regulators have realized the importance of technology in advancing different agendas in different industries. So I'll speak for my own regulator. So the central bankers have really come up to speed. They are doing courses to sharpen their skills in innovation, because innovation is constantly changing. Yeah, so you have blockchain, you have AI, you have robotics. The traditional regulator didn't even know what that is, but now they appreciate that the world has changed. So they're moving. In addition to them being more open to dealing with tech companies, they're also themselves upskilling themselves. They're constantly learning. So partnership, again, learning and knowledge gaining, that doesn't change across board. So everyone has to always be constantly learning, think outside the box and move outside their comfort zone. I think that's critical. It's just that element of moving outside your comfort zone to getting into a space that you're not comfortable with, but also exerting effort to appreciate that space and to be able to work together with the different players within that ecosystem.
Okay, thank you so much. That's awesome. I was going to ask a question about that, but I think you answered it towards the end. Because sometimes the policies are not actually good, very favorable, or sometimes some policies come to disrupt some kind of technology, like wipe out a whole line of business, a whole value chain. And what you have said about there has to be regular communication, they have to have some kind of relationship with everyone playing in the ecosystem, just so that it will be easy to identify what each person is doing and how their work interrelates with each other. And so I think the other part of my question is going to go into the number 6 question, which is something that Noha is going to answer for us. It says, how favorable are government policies on fintech organizations across Africa? I do know there have been a few policies that have been not good for some businesses. Some businesses have actually had to fold up because of certain policies, or maybe their income line reduced because of certain policies. So I don't know if Noha, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I can't see her here. Okay, so are you able to speak on number 6, which is how favorable are government policies on fintech organizations across Africa?
Yeah, sure. Well, definitely Shakila, thankfully, has covered a lot of the points that actually answer that question. Is it favorable or not? There is one point here that we need to make clear, that Africa has 55 countries of different natures, of different needs, of different maturity levels as well. So it's going to be really unfair to generalize the answer. But what I'm going to be saying is that it is favorable in the bigger African countries that are more advanced than the average African country. So the bigger markets in general, because there is a lot of interest in it from investors, and there are international partnerships. So those markets had the opportunity to actually work on fintech earlier than the rest of the smaller countries with smaller populations. What we can do is that we can transfer knowledge. We can make sure that whatever success stories are carried out in the larger markets around Africa are somehow customized to fit other markets and are adopted there. So is it favorable? Do we have favorable government policies on fintechs in general? I would say for the active fintech markets, mostly yes. Are there other markets that are not as encouraging? Yes. We have African countries, for example, that have initiated the licenses for fintechs, and they ask for license fees that even banks in that country cannot afford. So it's a barrier to entry. It's not as encouraging, but generally the approach is inclusive. Most governments have adopted that co-creation mindset to regulation. A sandbox, if you have a sandbox present in a country, that means that there is not a fixed fintech regulation. There is a framework of collaboration where you have fintechs joining the sandbox, and then the fintech with the regulator, they take it step by step to work on the regulatory and compliance requirements. The reason there are regulators is not to make the lives of fintechs harder. It's there to make sure that consumer protection is well looked after. It is there to make sure that the market risks, market associated risks are covered and tackled, so you do not get any systemic or systematic issues and problems that may affect the well-being of the entire population. Is it mostly favorable? Yes, whether governments. I also like to refer to the role of non-for-profits. So we have Shakila here working for FSD. They have great initiatives supporting fintechs and supporting insurtechs as well. So it's not just government policies that is affecting that fintech scene or environment. It's also the role and the impact of non-for-profits that work on policy advocacy, that works on supporting the government's build that favorable environment for fintechs. But mainly it is favorable unless it doesn't exist. And let us learn from one another, learn from advanced markets, and of course customize something that fits our local needs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noha. I know that's not really an easy question because Africa is so broad, like you mentioned, and because our target audience is Africa, we just had to make it like an African space we're talking about. So yeah, you're very right that it actually depends on the environment. The advanced countries or the bigger countries have it better than maybe those still coming up or learning the ropes, because there are a lot of iterations in some of these policies. They keep trying out different things until it's okay for them to take it on as a policy. And thank you so much for that. So our last but not the least question, because I haven't seen any other question on here, is what will you advise college students aspiring to take on IT, especially fintech profession, in the future to do in order to achieve that goal? So Oremeyi is going to help answer that question because I think she has a personal experience with this. She came right after school and joined a fintech organization that started from scratch, like she mentioned, when there was zero transaction to becoming a giant in Africa. So she can help us answer that question, Oremeyi. So it's over to you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. So again, the question is about, okay, if I want to, what advice college students aspiring? Now, the first thing you have to know, for you to succeed in any field, you say you aspire, you have to know why you want to get into that field. I'm not as privileged as you. I didn't know what fintech was. I mean, I didn't even know, hello. I just knew I was studying engineering. But I knew what I didn't want. I knew I didn't want to be a number. I knew I wanted to play in a space where I could make real impact. So I wasn't interested in working in the oil industry. And again, I have respect for my colleagues in the oil industry, but it wasn't for me because it was so established. And I said, I can almost make no impact here, So you really need to start with what motivates you. It must not be the money, the dollars, the 1.4 billion, that's your motivation, because money is not a sustainable motivation, and that is true. And if you follow money in your career, you're going to be frustrated. So you need to start with what motivates you. Now you say you have a passion for IT, fantastic, test that passion of fintech. When you're on holiday, find a fintech and say, I want to work for free. If they don't answer you, it's okay. Go and research on fintech and do a small write-up. Work with your friends, or if you're alone, it's all right. Do a small test of your interest. Maybe, what kind of opportunities do I see in the fintech space? Do a write-up and publish it. Thank goodness we are all publishers with the likes of LinkedIn and, Instagram. Publish it out there and say, I'm a student, but I'm just saying, the fintech space, these are areas I see, I'm telling you, if your heart was in it, there will be value in it and somebody will call you up. Someone will notice. or at the very least, you will prove to yourself that you're really interested, and it goes down into your record that you have XXX publication, and in the future, it can go on your resume. So it always interests me when I interview people, say, I'm interested in, I say, fantastic, what have you done? Oh, I've not done anything. Then you're not interested. If you're interested, you won't need anybody to push you. You push yourself. Go on the internet, research, find out. If you see any opportunity to work, even for free, do so. That builds your interest. And you really find out, am I really interested in this? So that's what I will say. A lot of people go straight into certifications and exams. I don't advise that. Anybody can jing an exam. Anybody can, walk over an exam, and I can pass any exam, I know. All I need to do is just, what are they marking? Read the book, and I'll pass it. So exams and certifications don't really mean you are interested. And they don't really mean you will mean you will do well. So the advice is, start now. Information is not around, right? If I resume for yourself, research, do articles, volunteer and work for free in such spaces. Spaces are enormous. Those are the things I will say. And of course, I always say this, in your current school work, be excellent. Fantastic, you can get a job with a low grade, but hey, why give yourself an extra headache? Do well in school, because some people also graduate and you say, why didn't you do well? So I wasn't really interested in that field. I'm interested in this other. To me, that's not a good use of your time. What's worth doing is worth doing well. Even if you don't like your course or you feel it's not what you're going to grow your career in, you are in there, do it. It builds credibility to say, I did well in school, but I'm changing my course line. That's credibility, right? And that also shows focus and discipline. So I will say, be disciplined, be focused, build your interest in the fintech space from now, and confirm you are interested by writing articles or volunteering for jobs, speaking at events, even student events. Yes, organize something in your school and invite experts to speak with online Zoom calls. People will respect that you're a student. They will support you. Do something. That is what I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oremeyi, for that wonderful answer. And thank you to everyone who has been on this panel. So yeah, we've answered the major questions, but I just want to find out from the audience, is there any other question? Do you have any question for any of the speakers before we round up the FinTech panel? Any question from anyone at all? If not, I'm going to ask the speaker all the speakers to give us just one last word. Yeah, we've been through so many topics and so many questions. So I'll just let the four speakers give us one last word each, so we can move to the general panel for the closing remark. So in no particular order, maybe we should start from Adjia, then Noha, then Shakila, then Oremeyi. Just one minute last word so we can wrap up the FinTech panel. Obviously on FinTech. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. So the development of the FinTech industry is immense. The value proposition, every day we hear new things, ranging from wallets, processors, remittance, merchant services, retail lending, and so forth. Just to mention a few, there are so many opportunities, and it keeps growing. As far as career opportunities are concerned, there will always be growth. For every part of the fintech, you can play. Just like Oremeyi said, you can play in any part. Even if you are a lawyer, you can play in the fintech space. Yeah, there are currently regulations that guide the industry. You can play in that space. It's fast-paced. I think she also mentioned that you should be think on your feet. You need to create value, try to provide value. So it's not just enough to say, oh, not everybody can start in fintech. But yes, there are so many opportunities to play in different capacities, as consultants, as vendors, value service providers in so many areas. So I also don't want women to
so I
limit
think
themselves.
Adjia's sound is having issues there. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. There's just some interruption on the sound, but I think it might just be network. But yeah, you can go on. So we just have a few seconds left.
Sure, I'll just close with this. I don't want women to limit themselves. There are so many areas you can play in fintech, so many. You can just pick one and develop yourself and try to bring value in that area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adjia. We're really grateful to have you on here and for your wonderful contribution to the panel. Thank you once again. So we go on to Noha. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Adjia, Shakila, Oremeyi, you've all added valuable inputs. I'm not going to refer to anything that we've said in there, but again, being the banker that I am, of course, I'm in love with numbers, statistics, like make me comfortable. So I'm going to close by raising or making clear a huge opportunity for fintechs worldwide, whether or not they are led by women. But of course, because we're addressing ladies and lady entrepreneurs, I wish that fintech-led businesses tackle that opportunity and focus on it. Women control $216 trillion in wealth worldwide, and that's according to a World Bank research. They are responsible for 89% of purchasing decisions globally. That's a research by Nielsen. Ladies, can you get the size of how sizable our decisions are? All that is money that can be directed to invest in women-led businesses or support businesses that have ladies part of it. That purchasing power that are controlled by women, if you address the specific needs and close the performance gaps that women face, you are going to have a huge market opportunity. Like 65% of women who have access to bank accounts are not happy with the service they are getting. Yes, because mainly those services are customized by men who do not have that understanding of female needs when they are in charge of households or they are in charge of businesses. That the fintech industry is naturally equipped to close such gaps. It can customize solutions quickly. It is agile on the ground, so it can respond to changing market needs and customer needs as quicker than any of the incumbent financial institutions. You have a huge opportunity attending to demands, needs of women who control wealth and women who are in charge of decision making. So go at it. I encourage everybody to look at females as a viable, profitable target market segment because the size of the opportunity is immense. 216 trillion of wealth is under the control of women. 89% of the purchasing power worldwide is the decisions are made by females. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noha, for that. So I think we can have Shakila and then Oremeyi will round up for us.
Okay, I think as Africans, it's high time we start solving our own problems. So if you are interested in solving, Africa's challenges, the fintech space is a place to start. So fintechs provide an avenue for us as Africans to solve our own challenge, to innovate, to use technology, to come up with solutions that solve our own problems. So yeah, let's all participate within the ecosystem. Because if we use examples of mobile money in different countries, we've all seen the effect that mobile money has had in just bringing people into the fold of financial ecosystem. And with COVID, facilitating e-commerce, even when movement was halted. So let's embrace technology. Let's use fintechs to solve our challenges.
Okay, thank you so much, Shakila. That's really awesome and something we should take away. So Oremeyi, one last word from you, please, and then we can wrap up.
Shakila stole my line. Solve our own. She stole my line. I have nothing to say. But just to emphasize, I love being African. You are so unique. Rock your uniqueness. Don't be looking for how to dodge it, and how to just absorb, solutions from other places. No way. We are in the best position to solve our problems as Africans and as women. I always say, yes, people say, oh, there's gender bias. I always say bias bows in the face of competence. It may not bow immediately, but it will bow eventually. If you're a woman and you're competent, keep building that competence. No matter the bias system, it will break down. We just saw what happened with Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. There was bias, but when they saw competence, they couldn't resist. So build your competence rather than complaining what people are doing or not doing. Do your own. As I said, the game is set. Play.
Thank you so much, Oremeyi. Thank you very much. And thank you for everyone who has been on this panel. Thank you for the audience as well, and for everyone, the organizers. So we are wrapping up this now. So I think they're going to merge everyone in the main conference for the vote of thanks. So please, we just need a few, like 5 minutes more to close this seminar. So Enanga is going to merge us with the main seminar, just so that we can have the vote of thanks.
Let's take a picture. If everybody in the background room wants to turn on their camera, we can take a picture. Okay, I'm gonna take a picture of everybody. You guys ready?
Say cheese, ladies. We need to see smiles and teeth. Please.
Enanga, are you done?
So you guys, I got it. You can stop. Thank you. You can stop smiling.
Thank you very much. I mean, such wonderful ladies. Thank you very much to the organizing team of wonderful ladies, the keynote speakers, the lovely panelists in here. Thank you all. And of course, thank you to the audience of wonderful ladies and gentlemen who are shaping the future of Africa. Yeah, thank you very much.
So do we leave or we'll just automatically? Yeah.
uh,